Hi everybody, welcome today. I really wanted to talk about chronic pain and kind of the nature of chronic pain, what it's all about, where it's from, and not just chronic pain, but acute pain and injury and pulling your hamstring while you're playing tennis or straining your calf while you're running. And I want to talk about kind of what this is about. So, what is injury from? There are lots of things that people believe. They talk about it being from old age, or it's the sport they're doing, right? I was playing tennis and I had lunged for a ball and I pulled my hamstring, right? So it kind of blaming the sport or the activity. I was walking and all of a sudden I felt this weird thing on my foot, and so hiking is no good for me anymore. These kind of things, which it's you blaming the activity for the pain isn't quite accurate. It's your body is actually it's your body going into the activity or the sport that matters most, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But the other thing, of course, is age. I hear it all the time in my clinic. Over the last 20 years, it was very common to hear the answer of when I asked, why do you think your back hurts? Well, I just think it's old age. I think I'm just getting older, and so let me just tell you this. Let me just strike that from your thought process altogether right now. It is not age, and I'll tell you why in a second. And then finally, of course, the genetics always gets blamed for a lot of things too. It's my father had it and my mother had it, and okay, great, but there's a lot more to it than actual genetics. In fact, genetics can have zero effect on or reason for your back pain or your neck pain or your hip or shoulder or your pulled hamstring or your tennis elbow, whatever it is. It really is solvable despite whatever genetics you have most of the time. So that brings us to what is the problem then? What causes injury? What causes pain? What causes acute and chronic pain? And the answer to that is really two things. The first thing is your alignment. The position of your body. And what I mean by that is, let's say that your shoulder is dropped forward and down, right? So you're a tennis player and your shoulder's way out of alignment. I've seen it 100 times with tennis players of all levels. And in fact, there's been some top tennis players on the planet that I've seen this particular posture with, and that misalignment of the shoulder, and it always has led to injury and pain. And in some cases, it's actually led to the end of their careers entirely. So as I was saying, continue from the example of the shoulder drops down and forward. What that does is that takes the shoulder out of its alignment. It takes the shoulder out of its neutral alignment. And as soon as you change that position, you actually change the function of the joint as well. So the joint changes position, which realigns the bones. That changes the actual function and mechanics of the joint. And you can do this really quickly and easily. If you're sitting there and you raise your arm up as high as you can go, raise it up. Then take your shoulder, round it forward and hold it there. Drop it down, round it forward, hold it there, now raise it up. Right? It goes to about half the place that it did before, right? You're able to raise it half the distance as you could before. And that's a major deal, because if you're a tennis player and you're going in to hit a serve and you're serving, but your shoulder is out of position, and that means that something is going to have to compensate for the lack of motion and the lack of function in that shoulder. And guess what compensates? Well, lots of things actually. It could be your back. So if my shoulder doesn't go, I'm going to have to arch my back more in order to get my arm back. It could be your shoulder joint itself. So the rotator cuff muscles, which are under way too much strain because the joint isn't going through its full range of motion. And that means that the powerful shoulder muscles aren't doing their job to stabilize the shoulder. The rotator cuff is doing too much of the work. Boom, too much stress on the rotator cuff, torn cuff, right? It could also compensate with the elbow, right? It was very common. If the shoulder joint isn't rotating all the way, then the elbow strains to get the arm in the right position to hit a serve. And as it comes through, because it's out of alignment, that shoulder's out of alignment, because the elbow's in an awkward position, in a vulnerable position, all of a sudden now you've got pain there too. And then of course, bring that down to the wrist. So the wrist is the same thing. If the shoulder isn't functioning correctly, then the elbow could be compromised and the wrist then is compensating as a result. So you can see this chain reaction of pain or dysfunction all due to misalignment of the shoulder, and that leads to problems potentially in the shoulder itself, in the back, in the elbow, in the wrist, and so on. So that's just an example of how misalignment can create pain. So you could be serving and you hurt your shoulder playing tennis, but really it's the body going into tennis that was the problem. Same thing for runners, knee pain, foot pain, hip pain. It's the same analogy as the shoulder, right? So if I go into running with the hip that is not fully functional and out of alignment, then that's going to affect not just the hip joint itself, but also the back, because the hip joint attaches in the pelvis, which connects to your spine, and also the knee and the ankle. So and the foot. So you have this cascade reaction of anything that's out of alignment is going to create excess stress on everything above and below it. It's a ripple effect. So the first thing that we look at when we talk about chronic pain is the position of your body, the position of the joint itself, and the position of your body as it relates to everything else, which is why all these exercises that I give on this channel are all about realigning the body, realigning your posture, and restoring balance. The next thing, other than alignment, that causes chronic or acute pain and injury is emotion. And let me explain. Have you ever thrown out your back and known that it was during a time of intense stress at work or at home, or your kids, something's going on with one of your kids, or you're worried about this project you've got coming up, or any kind of a fight with a spouse or a partner or a friend. Emotionally stressful times add stress onto your body. So wherever your body is already physically stressed, the emotional stress is going to compound that stress and create more opportunity for injury and potential damage to the joint or a muscle. Which is why it's so incredibly important to actually feel your emotions and process your emotions, which of course that's what I'm all about, is working on the emotional and the physical component to pain and injury. And I've got lots of tools in my various sites to deal with these things. But the point is that if you are dealing with any kind of emotional stress, you want to deal with it. And if you're dealing with any kind of physical pain, if you've got sciatic nerve pain or headaches or migraines or neck pain, back pain, knee pain, hip, shoulder, you name it, if anything is going on in your body, pulled bicep muscle or patellar tendonitis or plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendonitis, all of these things are symptoms. They're actually not causes, they're symptoms. And they're symptoms of a misaligned body and emotional stress that's adding to the misalignment, so that you're breaking and feeling the stress and the pain at your weakest spot. So I hope this clarifies at least and helps you understand a little bit more about what pain is and where it comes from. It's not bad luck, it's not old age, it's not genetics, and it isn't the sport or activity that you did when you were doing it. It really is misalignment, your body's out of position and the mechanics are off, and there's too much stress on some pieces and parts compared to others, and there's an emotional component, and that could be past emotional trauma, it could be present fear or anger or worry or anxiety or all of the above. Either way, those are the things that you want to address, and they're all very fixable. You can do this. So thanks for listening today, and I hope I added to your understanding. If you liked this, please click like on the video and please subscribe to my channel when you can. Thank you.